This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. Most any contemporary musical style can trace its roots back to the blues. Time Signatures explores the blues and its musical connections with captivating interviews, lively discussions, and news from the world of the blues.
You know I'm crying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. My guest today on Time Signatures is another incredible member of the blues community, a 2014 inductee to the Chicago Blues Hall of Fame, a well-known blues photographer for some 30 years. She's also a DJ with tons of interviews in her own right of blues musicians. And now, let's add author to the list of credits to this young lady. Now, if you happen to visit the Eel Pie Museum in Twickenham, London, you're likely to see her work there as it's on permanent display. And by the way, she volunteers there as well. Jennifer Noble, it's a pleasure to welcome you to Time Signatures. How are you?
Thank you for having me, especially on the first show. How exciting. I feel honored.
It's really exciting to be able to do this on the video side. This is something that I've been working on. We're in our second season, and it was just about a year ago that we started recording the very first episode. So
Yeah.
it's kind of exciting to see where we've come and where we're going, because there's a lot more stuff we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a lot of mobile out in the field, going to different events and blues events. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Go on.
There's a ton to discuss here with you today, Jennifer. So tell me about your baptism into the blues. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, yeah, this is something I talk about in the book because my publisher said, you got to tell them all about you. And I went, oh, no, because it goes back so long. What happened is I just happened to live in the same town as Muddy Waters because he left Chicago and moved out to the western suburbs, in the same western suburbs that I lived in. And so the very first live blues I saw, Muddy Waters we used to have a festival called Powwow Days, but now they call it the Taste of Westmont. And Muddy had a 1 amp and a guitar, and it was like 2 blocks from his house. And it was held in a small baseball field back then next to the library. And he just started playing. And the blues and his music struck me like lightning. I was like, wow, this is the greatest music I've ever heard. And I was probably about 15, 16 in the mid 70s there. And I never looked back. I just tried to go wherever I could to find it. Luckily, he played everywhere all the time around me, outdoors. And then when I worked in the city, he played out. They used to have blues acts all over outdoors during the lunchtime hour in Chicago.
Okay.
So I was lucky enough to see all these old guys, all the legends. And I just, wherever I could go, find them, I'd go. But I would say some of the artists that I saw the most were probably Lonnie Brooks and Coco Taylor, because they were just really hardworking artists. But, Chicago is the best place, in my opinion, in the world to be for blues. You can't get any better, it's so alive.
Right.
And, but what happened is I never took pictures back then. I was just a kid having fun. So fast forward to the mid 90s, I was really upset that I had no photos of Muddy Waters, considering all the times I've seen him live, So I decided that I was going to take my camera and and go out and photograph as many legends as I could. Like,
okay. I'm going to stop you right there, because you're jumping ahead, and
Okay,
I want to. No, you're fine. We're having a good time. That's all right. I wanted to ask you, as you were growing up, what kind of favorite songs did you have? I mean, you talk about the blues, but do you have any favorites?
Well, my dad used to play some B.B. King, Rolling Stones, Beatles. It was kind of my dad's music. My mom was more into show tunes. I would say it was my friends too, but like you said, when you have Muddy Waters in your backyard, you got the blues. You got the blues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was a hardworking guy. He had a lot of kids to feed, a lot of mouths to feed. And, and so it wasn't difficult to find the blues and keep it around. So yeah, when I was little, my dad he just played records, but not a lot of blues, but some. But
Okay.
I would say it just
So did you ever pick up an instrument yourself?
Well, I wanted to play the flute. My mother said, "No, your dad's got an old clarinet. Play that clarinet." Of course, when we took it to school, they said, "This thing's a piece of junk. You got to buy her another one." And I still kind of crushed because I never really want to play the clarinet. And I played it from 5th grade to sophomore year, but
Okay.
I wasn't that interested in it. I think if I could play something really well, I'd like to play harmonica. I'm a big harmonica fan. So
Okay.
if I could choose to play something today. And I always wanted to learn piano. I always wanted piano lessons. I never got those. So I'm just take pictures of artists. I don't
Nothing
play.
wrong with that. Jennifer, your body of work as a photographer is well known. How did you come to get involved with it initially, and where did you go from there?
Well, let's go back to that story about
Sure.
never taking a picture of Muddy Waters. And I was really upset about that, considering how many legends I saw over and over again, from Junior Wells to Willie Dixon to, I just wish I had a camera back then. I never did get to know Howlin' Wolf. He kind of died the year I got into blues. And he's a favorite of mine, Howlin' Wolf. Some guy, I wish if I could see someone live, it would be probably Howlin' Wolf, from Chicago blues. But
Sure.
my brother gave me an old Minolta and said, here's a camera, see what you can do with this. It's back in the film days. And I just went out. And the first act I photographed was Junior Wells at the Aurora Blues Fest. And a few months later, he got sick and he never performed again. And he died January 1998. So that was
Wow.
like June 1997 that I first started photographing blues artists. And but I really loved it. And I just it kind of like finding your passion, but like I said, I focused on legendary guys that were up there and older, like Pinetop Perkins, and they're all still alive back. A lot of them were still alive back then in the 90s.
Yes.
So it came down to seeing a young guy or a legend guy that came up from Mississippi. I always go see the old Mississippi guys, and that's kind of how I built my reputation as a photographer. And then I just kept going from there. And I still kind of like that, where if a legend's around, I'll go see that legend over somebody maybe up and coming, because I
Sure.
feel like I'll get another chance to see that up and coming person, but I might not get another chance. Like, for example, I can't remember his name now. A guy that I was deciding whether to go see Ronnie Baker Brooks or this old legend guy. What's his name? I can't think of it. And I went to see Ronnie Baker Brooks, and that guy died that week. I was like,
oh man,
because I went to see the young Ronnie Baker Brooks, who's fantastic, but I missed photographing the guy. I'll think of his name anyway. And so so I'm still kind of like that. I'll go and say, and my blues has changed for me. Like I
Sure.
grew up with all the guys from Mississippi, but they're not many left.
Right.
Blues, as I know it, traditional Chicago blues is not. It's still, there's still blues out there, good blues in Chicago, but those guys that I grew up with, they're all gone. So it's an adjustment for me now. When I come back to Chicago, which, by the way, I'm working on moving back to Chicago.
Okay.
It's a lot of logistics. I just bought a place when I was home in December. So we're coming back because I miss the blues. I miss the blues in Chicago. And then in Chicago, probably just like you have in Lansing, we have a strong community there. It's a community. It's a blues community.
Yes.
And I'm also director of photography for Chicago Blues Guide. And we started that Linda Kane, my editor, and I started in 2008. And since 2008, we've been promoting blues in Chicago, artists coming through Chicago,
Very cool.
So, and then I used to supply pretty much all the photos, but she's grown. She has other photographers now. Yeah, it's still recognized by the mayor's office as a place to turn to find blues if you're coming to Chicago, which is pretty
What a
cool.
wonderful resource. I have to ask you about your book, 50 Women in the Blues. Okay.
Mhm.
This is an amazing historic retrospective on some of the biggest names in the blues. And they aren't men, are they? Talk about that for a minute.
Well, what happened is there's a London publisher here that was in Twickenham here. She called me into her office, and we should do something with your photos because they're really cool and amazing, and I like them. And so when I went to her office, she says, well, what kind of book should we do? I'm like, because it wasn't never in my realm of thought that I would do a book. I never said to myself, I want to do a book. But she said, I said, I don't know, Chicago blues? I'm from Chicago, And she goes, well, what about women in blues? And because she's a big supporter of women in arts and has a lot of books. And I said, okay, well, we looked it up, we Googled, and there was no book out there about contemporary women in blues. There's no book put together with just women blues, women now out there singing the blues. She goes, how about that? And I said, well, okay, because I'm a supporter of women. I always think women need, there's not enough women in the blues, and they could always use more support, which is kind of, in a lot of things, not enough women. Okay. So then I had the thought that, well, how am I going to do this? Because it had to be my photographs, you see. It was supposed to be about my photographs. So
yes.
There's a whole bunch of women that I wanted to put in my book, but I hadn't photographed them. But I still kind of asked them, I still asked these women, some women, and I got photographs from a couple photographs in there because I didn't think mine were good enough. Just a couple. I asked other photographers like Joseph Rosen, who's I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right, Rosen. And there's a photograph in there from Laura Carboni. Everyone knows her. Yeah.
Sure.
But anyway, and one of my goals of the book was to be as diverse as I could, because it's easy to just put all women singers in there. But I'm like, no, I got to have diversity. And I tried as hard as I could, but I didn't get a drummer. I wanted a drummer, Cheryl Youngblood, whose t-shirt I'm wearing today. She's hot as a pistol on the Chicago blues scene and starting to travel the world. She just got back from Mumbai, India. She got back to me just a little bit too late, and I'm like, oh, I wanted you in my book so bad, but you didn't get back to me by the time we went to press. And also, my book was only supposed to be 200 pages, and it's 240. And I'm like, well, because it says 50 women in the blues. And I'm like, who's going to count? Can we just have some more? Nobody cares how many we have. She goes, no, Jen. She goes, you wanted this book in color because you wanted black and white. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it black and white. She goes, it's expensive. Quit adding women. She's like, got to cut it off. Well,
I think that one of the coolest parts of this book is that you've combined your amazing photography with some interviews and some retrospective information about your recollection of some of the artists. And it really sets your book apart, doesn't it?
Well, that's the thing. See, I just sent out like a questionnaire, a guideline questionnaire, but I clearly stated, you don't have to follow this at all. You could write your own story. And so that's what makes it unique. It's not me writing a book. It's all these women in their own words telling their story about their journey through the blues, which is cool. Which kind of makes it timeless, because women, because say you're thinking about singing the blues and you're not sure, or any genre of music, doesn't even matter.
Sure.
Well, there's so many different perspectives and points of view from coming from all these different women that, and it doesn't even matter if you're even a man, because it's how they got into the blues. So I think it's could be very inspirational to a lot of people. And even if people are in the blues singing, maybe they would be inspired to keep going after reading these women's journeys, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you look at the blues, primarily you hear about the men. You don't hear as much about Sister Rosetta Tharpe and some of the other big names, unless you talk to one of the big blues guys and they talk about these women that were so intricately involved. But I wanted to ask you, what led you to dedicate 50 Women in the Blues to Coco Taylor?
Because I still believe to this day, she's the queen of the blues. I mean, when I travel the world seeing the blues, I go to festivals in Europe and, I live the blues life, and everywhere I go, Coco Taylor is the number one inspiration to so many women that sing the blues out there. Her name will come up time and time again. And also, I grew up with her. I mean, I saw Coco Taylor from, the late 70s till the day she died. She was the woman that I saw the most. So it's hard for me, like all other women, I kind of, want to hear them sing Coco Taylor like it, but very few can do it because she sings she used to sing from the gut, as what's her name, Bonnie Lee, Delmark recording. Okay. Lee used to say, Coco Taylor don't sing from the gut like I do, and she. What my point is like, so a lot of people kind of scream, or they don't. It doesn't come deep from within,
right?
Like Coco Taylor. If you listen to her kind of wails that she does and everything, and she, to me, she lived for the blues, and she was happiest on stage. You could see her, like I've seen this a couple times, older blues woman, she'd be nodding off to the side as soon as it was her turn to get on stage. She'd get up there and she'd just kill it, and but I mean, she dedicated her whole life to the blues, and we are just so lucky to have her in Chicago. And she worked tirelessly. She, traveled the world nonstop and never stopped, working to the day that she died. And I'm just so grateful. I said, it's hard for me to get her out of my head and not want other women to sing like her. I'm like, Jen, not everyone's going to sing like Coco Taylor. And I keep having to talk to myself and go, why not? Why can't they all sing like Coco Taylor?
Well, Blues Matter magazine said this about 50 Women. This is not just another coffee table book. It is a must read for all blues aficionados. That's pretty heavy praise. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Thank God for them. I mean, I did get many great reviews. The crazy thing is that my book came out just before the pandemic hit. Like literally November 2019. It didn't even hit Chicago because it has to come across the ocean. It's printed here for 6 more months. So here it is, full-blown pandemic time. I had interviews in France, the Canary Islands, in person when I was going to sell my book, and everything had to be canceled because nobody could take the risk because you couldn't travel, Right. So I'm really grateful for you to still recognize this book, because I don't think it got the attention that it deserved. I think it deserves more attention. And like I have had very few in-person promotions, and I've got some amazing write-ups and some radio interviews, but I'm so thankful that you're keeping it alive, let's say, this book, because I think it's a really cool, unique book. I'm grateful.
I would agree with you, and I've enjoyed every bit of it as I've read through. One of the first things that I noticed as I read through it, though, was your photographic style. I humbly noted that our styles are similar. But imagine my delight when you told me basically the same thing when I sent you the link to my photography page, because I also am a professional photographer and I love shooting blues concerts. But I really enjoy the fly on the wall, catch it as it happens style of shooting. Talk about your style for just a little bit.
Wow. Um, it's funny. I always like to do close-ups because that's the way actually my editor at Chicago Blues Guide likes them. But to be on album covers, for instance, there's always a dream of mine to be on the front of an alligator artist. I've been on Delmark, a few others, I've printed in loads of magazines, but I wanted to always be an alligator. That's my hometown giant label.
Sure.
The most well-known label probably around the world. And Bruce Igler used to tell me, you shoot too close up. You can't use your photographs the way you shoot. So then I thought, well, all right, Mr. Igler, I'll try to back off my lens a little bit and shoot more. Because he says in magazines there's cropping going on, but no, that's not so much true anymore. Printing has changed. Now everybody just prints JPEGs. It's the printing industry has changed, dramatically. There's no more of this 4-color stuff, CMYK, like there used to be. So I try to back off my lens and incorporate more background, but and I always try to kind of shoot with a non-noisy background, because if you go to get printed for records or CDs, the producer or who's ever in charge will want a non-noisy background unless I got some sort of a theme going.
Sure.
With that. But if they, because I'm on these lists, to email my photos and see what I got. I've done it for like 20 years for Bruce Igler for Alligator. He's only chose one publicity photo, and that was he's never chose a cover or I don't think in any of his CDs. But he chose a photo of mine of Curtis Salgado, and you know what? Curtis Salgado liked the photo so much that he asked me if I could upload that photo to his Wikipedia page.
Oh wow.
I didn't really know I go, how do you do that? So he's got my photo on his Wikipedia page, which is pretty cool because I'm a super fan of Curtis Salgado. Sure. I tend to like more like the soul blues or I'm not like so much of a guitar shredder fan, like the rock blues, which is hugely popular right now. I feel like there's not enough soul blues out there. So whenever I hear any or somebody's like sing it, like I love Johnny Rawls and Billy Price, and I'm always looking for soul blues, but feel it's hard to find. I think in South Side of Chicago, I think there's more, but I don't really know where, and I don't want to venture by myself and get lost. Chicago could be, at night. Sometimes you don't want to end up in the wrong neighborhood. It's a rough and tumble city, but one I love. So, but anyway, but anyway, what's nice about this book, because you can open it to any page and just start reading about any artist. You don't have to read it from cover to cover, back to front. But, I also want to give a shout out. I kind of took some notes here that some of the women that have been nominated year after year since I wrote this book, so many women in my book have been nominated for Blues Music Awards. So I just want to give a shout out, like to some of them, like in the soul women's category, Kat Riggins, who from Florida, Terry O'Dabi, who's from San Francisco, Oakland area.
Okay.
She's nominated. Thornetta Davis, right? Thornetta Davis, your girl up there.
Poster's right there. I got two of them. I got one here and one there. Yep.
Love her. And then Larkin Poe, who were kind of one of the younger ones. They just won a Grammy. And then Ruthie Foster, who's nominated for Contemporary Blues Album. And then traditional female blues artists, Dina Greenleaf and Teeny Tucker. And then instrumentalist vocals, Dina Greenleaf, Ruthie Foster, Shamika Copeland. And Shamika Copeland, I think, is on my cover here. Is she on my cover? No, she's not on my cover. She was going to be on my cover of the book. Jen, look at your book more. Okay. Some of the women that she was originally on the cover, but publisher switched it up. And then some of the women that I wanted in my book that just didn't make it or didn't get back to me, like just to name a few, was like Cheryl Youngblood and Vanessa, as I mentioned, Vanessa Collier, Trudy Lynn, Laura Chavez, Sue Foley, who I talked to, Demetria Taylor, the timing was just bad for her, Samantha Fish, Daniel Nicole, and this great blues lady in Ireland called Mary Stokes, who's played with everybody since the 80s, And so anyway, my book, kind of stretches from all over the US to obviously a few UK artists because I was living in the UK full time. And then I've got Tia Gutebel from France. And I've got Dawn Tyler Watson, who I love, from Canada. And I think all the rest are from the US. You know what I mean? Like I said, I probably could put together a whole nother book. But,
It is such an honor to have you on the show. If anybody wants to get a copy of this book, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you, can they get it signed and where would they get it?
Yeah, well, I'm very active on Facebook. So you could just message me on Facebook, or you could email me to my former DJ email, which is jukinjen, JUKINJENN @gmail.com. And I'd be happy to mail you a book. Sign it. And
I got it right here.
Go.
And she did sign it. She did sign it right there to Garrett and I. And I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying the book and how much I've enjoyed our conversation this morning. Any other websites or Facebook pages that you want to promote out here for your book and for your business?
I do have a 50 Women in the Blues Facebook page. I don't check it as much as I should, and I should be more active on it. I try to promote the women. Sometimes I promote them on my page more than the 50 Women in the Blues. But it's out there. It tells you how to get a hold of me and stuff. And Instagram, I do have an Instagram page, but guilty of not really doing much with it. It's hard to keep up with all the social media stuff, but I'm really easy to get a hold of on Facebook. Just like you messaged me,
Yeah.
I got back to you, and I'm a busy girl. I travel a lot. I'm never really home. I'm always looking for the next blues gig, and always, try to pack up here and get out of London. I've been here 13 years. It's time for me to go home. Well,
Jennifer Noble, it has been a pleasure to have you on Time Signatures, and continued success to you. Hopefully you can sell a couple million copies of this book. That'd be a great retirement gift for you. And of course, I look forward to meeting you in person one day. And, whether it's I come down there or if you make it up to the Lansing area for our Blues Fest, whatever the case may be, I definitely look forward to meeting you at some point down the road for sure. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. And I hope that you consider making it to this year's Chicago Blues Fest. I think you'll really enjoy it.
But Jennifer Noble, so very good to have you with us. Jim Ervin reminding you, keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues one story at a time is my mission. Until next time, be well and so long.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.